What's up, Doc? Welcome to the Docs Get Money podcast. Are you a badass doctor killing it professionally and has bigger dreams than just clocking in and out of the hospital? Do you want to leave behind a legacy that is as lit as an HBCU homecoming? Want to know how other doctors are getting to the big bag? That's right, making 5, 6, and 7 figures without putting on the white coat? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you're in the right place. I'm your host, Kimberly, but you can call me Kim or KB. I went from being a burnt out and overwhelmed emergency physician to the founder and CEO of 2 6-figure non-clinical companies and beating burnout along the way. I'm also your business coach, here to help you make money moves to change the world. This podcast isn't just about making money, though. It's about leveling up your life, mindset, and bank account so you can build an empire that's as iconic as Beyonce. You ready? Let's get into it. If you're sitting on a mountain of expertise and wondering if it's possible to replace your clinical income while practicing full-time, I've got news for you. It's not just possible, it can happen in 90 days or less. But only if you create your FIRE offer, your express lane to fast income and a lifestyle that allows you to retire early, all while keeping your day job. Tailored for doctors ready to change lives outside of the exam room, you go from concept to cash in under 90 days as a consultant, coach, or midterm rental business. Think it's a stretch with your schedule? Think again. With the FIRE Offer Combustion Kit, you'll craft your expertise and story into an offer that's too hot to touch and sell it to make your first 4 or 5 figures. Ready to change lives and make bank fast? DM the word BURN to me, Dr. Kimberly, at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram, and let's start a fire. Thank you, everybody, for joining me for another episode of the Docs Get Money podcast. I'm so excited to have my next guest today. It is also someone that is near and dear to my heart, probably because she's a client of mine. But I'm really, really excited to introduce you to Dr. Biosha Jones. I'm going to let her really take it away. But she is someone that is dynamic, outstanding, interesting, and someone to watch as far as someone that is making money and is creating things that are definitely outside of the box, as in addition to her practicing emergency medicine as well too. So, Dr. Jones, I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience, darling.
Of course, that is so. The introduction, it did a good job. I really appreciate it. Yes, my name is Biasha. I am a brand new attending ER doctor. I just finished up residency, June of 2023. And so I've been practicing independently now for about 8, 9-ish months, I guess now, at the time of this podcast recording. And I'm from Dallas, Texas, originally, born and raised. That's where I spent most of my time up until college and residency and all the postdoctoral training and everything of that nature. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here. It's been a journey, and it continues to be a journey.
Absolutely. So give us a sneak peek. What do you do that gets you money outside of just practicing emergency medicine, even though you're brand new attending?
So I just founded a life and confidence coaching business called Be Out Loud. That is, like I said, a life and confidence coaching business that is tailored for minoritized and or women, not necessarily in medicine, but those were the people that I first thought about because I am a doctor, who may be dealing with stuff that is either based in imposter syndrome or based on certain things that we deal with as people who are historically oppressed, and most of the times minorities within our workplace. And that is something that really came about because of my own experiences. I was the only Black person in my residency class of 18. I think I was one of 2 at any point of my residency journey out of about 50 people. And so learning about that and dealing with that, navigating that, and learning how to be unapologetically and authentically me, that entire journey is what led me to Be Out Loud, because it was something that I had to learn for myself. I'm also the first doctor in my family. So there was a really large learning curve even in getting to that point. And so the entire journey of getting to medical school, then graduating from medical school, and then everything that subsequently happened after that, starting during COVID, like I said, being the only Black person in my class, and all the things that, residency throws at you in and of itself, is something that I really had to learn. And it really gave me an unshakable confidence now that has really elevated my mentality. And I think it's really contributed to how I perceive myself, whether that be in the workplace or not. And that's ultimately the mindset that led me to create Be Out Loud. So I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. And I'm very excited to help other people, especially historically oppressed and or women, find their voices so that they can become the best versions of themselves as well.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. So let's backtrack just a little bit though, because we got you your ER doctor, and now we're life coaching, we're confidence coaching for historically marginalized doctors and high achieving professionals, honestly, in general, sounds like as well too. So take me back to the beginning. Tell me about a little bit more about you growing up in Dallas, Texas. Tell me about your family and how you even got to want to become a physician in the first place.
So growing up, I was raised by a single mother. I now have a great relationship with my dad, but he just wasn't super present when I was younger. And so it was really me and my maternal grandmother who raised me a lot. My paternal grandmother has always been very present, everything like that. But I lived with my maternal grandmother and my mom. And so my grandmother had a heart attack when I was 13 or 14. And she was actually really far away when that happened. She was in California visiting her family, like her brothers and sisters that lived out there at the time. And so I did not have any understanding of what exactly was going on in terms of her having a heart attack. And all I know is that my grandma was gone on vacation to live it up in Vegas, and then she was gone for like 2 months. So that was all that I was able to conceptualize at that time. But then when she came back home, she was, ultimately saved. She had the big coronary bypass scar in the middle. She had a walker. There were a lot of things that were different about her, but she was back. And so that was a really big moment for me where I said, okay, she was obviously very sick because she was gone for a long time. She was in the hospital for a long time, but something happened that saved her. And when I was able to connect those dots, then I started to look up, what was a heart attack? And I was like, wow, this seems really scary. And so I kind of went down this research rabbit hole to the extent, that a young teenager can go on, right? Where I was trying to learn more about what exactly was happening to her and what exactly saved her life, essentially. And that's when I said, "Oh, doctors! Wow, okay." Because that was my first introduction into doctors. That was my first introduction into any of this stuff because I'm the first doctor in my family. So I'm not somebody that was shadowing people at that age, or getting to know people at that age, or doing any sort of networking activity that a lot of doctors have, and because of their backgrounds and because of their parents and because of that close connection, I didn't have those sort of networking connections. So I had to read all that stuff on my own. And so when I learned that, I started becoming very open to it, and I went to a high school of health professions there in Texas and Dallas, and I was able to continue to get more exposure, and I decided, this is what I wanted to do. But it really just came from my grandmother having that heart attack and really just opening up my mind and my heart to, wow, there's really people out here that can just save lives like that. That's great.
Yeah. No, that's really dope. So after you decided that medicine was what you wanted to do with your life, how did you then progress from there? Like, did you then walk into undergrad knowing that you wanted to be a doctor? And then how did that kind of take form after that?
So I did walk into undergrad wanting to be a doctor. I think that beforehand, I was still just kind of exploring a lot of different things. Like at some point, I thought I wanted to do track. At some point, I thought that I wanted to be a teacher. And so there were a lot of different things just for I guess, various reasons that I wanted to do other things outside of medicine. But I did go into college and say, look, I want to be a doctor. My grandma's still here. And doctors are the reason for that, obviously because of God and everything like that. But God put these people into place to save her life. And so that was just a very core memory and core experience for me. And that was really what cultivated my purpose in medicine. So yeah, I went into college with that notion, and I worked pretty hard in college.
Where'd you
And
go for undergrad, if you don't mind?
I went to Baylor University.
Okay. Go
Yeah,
Baylor.
they're in the Sweet 16. I think the women are, but the men are doing pretty well right now in basketball too. So I don't know. It's a lot of things that have changed, but it's still sick of over here. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, Baylor had the reason why I chose Baylor is because I was told that they have a very robust medical tract and pre-medical tract, and they had a lot of different resources, and it was a good name for people that wanted to do medicine. And I said, well, I don't necessarily have the academic support that I needed before this, so I needed to make sure that I went to a college that had those things. So that was really a really big reason why I went to Baylor. So I was pretty set once I figured it out that I wanted to be a doctor. I was pretty set in that. So
that's really cool. Okay. So then after you got to undergrad, went to Baylor, did medical school happen for you right away? Or how did you actually make that leap? And then also, when did you decide that you wanted to be an ER doctor as well too?
That's a good point. So actually, no, I thought that medicine and it was just going to be a very straight shot. Like that was my intention. I remember volunteering. I was just like researching some stuff, and I learned about a program in Texas that's called the Joint Academic Medical Program or something like that. And it's for people who are either socioeconomically disadvantaged and or minorities. Is a program to help you get into medical school. All you have to do is do the camps every year, and then take and pass the MCAT. But unfortunately, the MCAT was my nemesis because I could not pass it. Yeah.
Girl, same. That test is so evil. And I don't think I would even be able to probably pass it today, even as like a full-fledged attending, practicing emergency medicine.
It's kind of dumb. It's kind of dumb. I understand that you have certain academic tests that people do to make sure that you understand all the material up until that point. But I don't even use that stuff now. And your point exactly. Like, could I pass it right now? Who knows? Because I don't even use those things right now. But the academic obstacles and some of those kind of barriers, weed out things, that's a whole nother conversation. But it did try to weed me out though. So I had to take that test. I didn't pass it the way I was supposed to for 2 times. And so I was removed from the program, which means that I was subsequently not able to go to one of the medical schools or whatever that you were allotted if you successfully finished up the program. So I had to take a year off, and it was not anything that I had wanted to do, but it was something that was destined for me. And so in that time off, I started scribing and I worked in the ER, and I said, oh, this is kind of cool. This is kind of cool. And so
do you remember a case or something that really was just like, ooh, what's this? Or something you saw with the doctor or?
No, I think I just really like the pace, and I like the flexibility of being a scribe because I was trying to do MCAT studying and reapplying and stuff like that. So at that time, I was just open to it, but I wasn't completely sold on doing ER at that time. So
got you.
But yeah, I thought it was a good time. I learned a lot. I saw a lot, and the best part about the gap year is what, as they call it, was that I ended up just being able to backpack across Europe for like a month. So I was very happy, and that was really the best time. And it's very insane to think about now because at the time I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm so behind. Like, well, what am I going to do now? And everything like that. And that period of stillness and that period of not doing ended up being completely transformational for my life. And so I'm very happy that things worked out the way that they did. But yeah, so I had to. So I took. It was just 1 year. I really could have took a couple more of them, to be honest with you. But it ended up just being 1 year, and it was good. And then I got accepted into UT Houston, so I was down there hanging out, doing my thing. And at that point, UT Houston was a medical school, and at that point, I was still pretty open. I think, like at some point, I thought I wanted to do surgery. Ooh, I think it was because I had a good mentor. Shout out to our surgeons because
God bless all surgeons out there listening.
I have
Y'all are special.
a lot of respect for what they do because that's a hard job. But I think I had a couple of mentors that were surgeons, and so that just was very impressionable for me. But ultimately, I just decided on ER. And at that point in medical school, I I don't think there was a particular case. I think it was just seeing the breadth breadth of what ER doctors were able to do. I knew that I wanted to talk to people, but I also wanted to use my hands.
Yeah.
So from a pragmatic standpoint, I knew that ER was something that I could do that would allow me to do that.
Yeah.
But I also didn't want to be in clinic. I didn't want to be on call and those sorts of things. And I think the other thing about ER is that I really liked the notion of this is something that I can do wherever I go, right?
Yes.
Like I don't need very sophisticated tools to do this. I don't necessarily have to be in this certain environment to do this. Sometimes all you got is your brain, your hands, and the person in front of you, and the training that I get and the lessons that I learned and the skills and the experience that I have as an ER doctor still make me able to help people. And I thought that that was just dope. I just loved being able to help somebody wherever I go and being able to have that skill set. So
no, 100%. I was gonna say too, that's something else that drew me to emergency medicine, just to be able to still use my hands as a healer. It's not just all internal medicine where it's just kind of like the thoughts and the theory and the sending down for procedures and adjusting medications. It's that, and sometimes we just gotta lay hands on people. Sometimes we just need to put a chest tube in. Sometimes we gotta put a tube down your throat. Sometimes we got to bring your lug back up. Sometimes we just need to do something to help you. And I love being able to have the balance of both kind of like the thoughts and also the doing of medicine as well too. So that's cool that you thought that as well.
Yeah, I think that being an ER doctor, which I can't necessarily speak on other professions because I don't do those things, but I know that the skill sets and everything, even the way that you have to advocate for your patients when you're speaking with consultants, when you're speaking with admitting services, or even when you're advocating for a patient, like, look, I think you need to stay, you're very ill. Those sorts of skills were very, very instrumental into me developing into who I am today as well. Because again, go back to being underrepresented, and we go back to how sometimes your colleagues or sometimes patients or staff don't necessarily perceive you in such a way that is of competence, is of knowledge, and is of just general trust. And so sometimes you have to advocate for yourself as well. And so being able to speak up for myself also helped me kind of get to this notion of, wow, okay, this is why I need Be Out Loud. That's why I have to create it. Because sometimes when you lack that confidence, when you lack that ability to stand up for yourself in the moment, or, after the moment, just in general, then that also plays into your confidence or lack of confidence. And it just turns into this downward spiral that gets ghetto very quickly.
Absolutely.
It's not fair. And not everybody has to experience that. And so that was another reason why I said Be Out Loud is something that I need to create, because I know that there are a lot of other people that are dealing with this. There are a lot of other people, maybe women, maybe minorities, maybe minoritized women, or people that are gender neutral, who can't necessarily see how advocating for themselves might be of their benefit, right? Because there's stereotypes, there's microaggressions, there's, oh, well, what are they going to think if I say this? Well, what are they going to think if I do this? So all of those things in the moment are up here. And so it's not you can see, it's not anything that you can touch, it's not anything that you can say, hey, look what you did. It's very subtle. but it ends up making a big deal up here.
Absolutely, 100%. And that also translates into the business world as well too, because as an entrepreneur, especially and as a new attending, if you're trying to juggle things that you're doing outside of medicine, everybody knows as soon as you start a brand new job and you have that shiny medical degree and your residency papers are just freshly signed, everyone wants you to join committees and pull on you and do all of the things that can burden your time, your energy, and things like that. So being able to have firm boundaries, being able to advocate for yourself and what you want and prioritize things for yourself is important as well too as an entrepreneur. So I just wanted to double tap on that because you're 100%. Emergency medicine is a very unique specialty. I was talking with another client on the podcast about like it's very much like waiting tables in a restaurant. I don't know if you were ever a server or anything like that. I was never a server, but just being able to juggle and manage expectations. You got new people coming in, you got old people you got to serve, you got people that's leaving. It's a lot that's going on, and so I think that bringing that perspective as an emergency physician now into your own business, like you've done with Be Out Loud, is really, really important because you're able to, like I say, juggle and manage and being able to use those skill sets in just a different way as an entrepreneur.
And it's also very interesting because entrepreneurship is not really something that I thought about either. All of these things are things that are very new to me, and they're not concepts that were intrinsically introduced because they are not things that are very commonplace within my own family, right? Like there are a lot of people that are, hey, I'm just going to continue the family business, which means that you have that mentorship, you have access to even those sorts of networks. And so there's so much courage in starting something new, especially when it's something that you've never done before, especially when it's something that you don't have any sort of, just built-in mentorship and networking to kind of help you with that. And it's something that some people might say, why would you do that?
Right.
Well, there's all this other very steady stuff. You could just do that. So why would you do that? That's something that risk, right? And so
exactly.
But that's sometimes you have to take that risk on yourself, and the rewards are rewarding, okay?
Well, let's talk about it. So tell us why you decided to start Be Out Loud and kind of take us along the journey of how you got here to take this experience as an emergency physician now into what you're doing. Can you take us behind the curtain just a little bit?
So kind of like I was saying earlier, some of the experiences that I had with learning how to advocate for myself as a Black woman who is also an ER doctor, and the skills that I had to learn to advocate for myself in that way is very, very important. Some of the skills that I had to learn to be authentic to myself while also making sure that I'm doing whatever it is that needs to be done within the workplace is something that was very important, but it was a skill that I had to learn. I think that something that a lot of people that are minorities deal with, not necessarily in medicine. This is something that, maybe people deal with this in college. Maybe people deal with this in law school during internships or with their first, big girl engineering job or whatever the case may be, servers even. Just everybody who is out there trying to get something for themselves. People telling you, look, I don't know if this is for you. Look, I don't know if you're going to be good enough for this, or look, gotta watch that attitude. And so all of the little things, like I was saying, that people do that can have a very large negative impact. A lot of those had negative impacts on me. And I saw myself progressing. I saw myself starting to believe some of these negative things that people were telling me. Even when I was in college or whatever the case may be, and I was still trying to do medicine. Oh, maybe medicine's not for you because you can't take a test. Those sorts of things. And so all of the negative things that people said that stick in your head and can actually attach yourself to that and start to behave and walk into that, but in the worst way possible, right? And so I saw myself doing that throughout residency. I saw myself really starting to slip into that a little bit in the beginning of attendinghood as well. And I said, when I did that, I wasn't as good of a doctor as I could have been. I wasn't as good of a wife as I could have been. Wasn't as good of a daughter. I wasn't as good of a person. I had dealt with compassion fatigue, burnout, and I didn't like myself. I was saying all sorts of very negative things, and the internal dialogue was just not something. It was just not a safe space.
Well,
And
it's also kind of a spiral staircase as well, too, because I know you
yeah,
said it. From what I know you started your residency in the middle of 2020. George Floyd, all
yes,
of the things, and being the only one in your program. And I love the fact that you brought it up that it happened again not that long ago, a few months ago. You're still in your first year of of attendinghood. So it's a circular staircase almost as well, too. So I just wanted to double tap on what you said.
it is a circular staircase, and it's one that if you're not careful, if you do a misstep or a couple, you can really start to regress. And so having that mental fortitude to move forward despite those things is definitely something that all these lessons have taught me. And it's really the premise of be out loud and making sure that people, like I said, who don't have those built-in networks, making sure the people that are existing in spaces that may not have been created for them, or they're underrepresented in those spaces, making sure that those people, number one, can get the support that they need. And number two, can learn to find and recenter their voices and stop listening to all of the negative things that are being told or being said or being assumed externally, right? In a workplace that's not built for you, so that you're not creating that identity for yourself. And so having that confidence, and like I said, when I learned you, like when I learned, oh, okay, I can do this. And when I started to believe in myself, and when I actually started to build that confidence that says, you know what, say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud, but I'm like one of two in here, or that confidence that says, look, you're not necessarily better than me just because I thought so, right? Self-imposed inferiority, that's not real. I am just as good as you. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. You know what I'm saying? And having those sorts of mentalities really, really made me to be a much better doctor. It made me to be a much better person. It made me to be a much better wife, and all these things. And even people in residency, like my leadership, they commented like, "Look, wow, we can really see the growth here." But the thing on when it came to clinical performance or whatever the case may be, even tests actually. And so, but I knew that the change was really up here. I knew that the change was all of the mental fortitude, and it was a confidence. And so that is the entire point of Be Out Loud, is to make sure that people have what they need here to make sure that they're being the best version of themselves and to recenter themselves, like I said, so they're not listening to negative people, negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Or you know what? Let's even go deeper, right? There's all sorts of, this is March 2024. And right now there's all sorts of legislation, right? There's
Yes.
all sorts of policies. There's all sorts of things that are in place that say, look, DEI is not real and you're here because of DEI. So it's even embedded in the policies to the highest court of the United States to say you are not, they're trying to tell you you are not enough. You know what I'm saying? But people don't recognize how difficult and isolating that can be. And so that affects you negatively. So what happens? You start to perform worse at work. You start to not be as confident. You stop going to the gym. You stop taking care of yourself. You say, look, it doesn't matter anyway because I'm not enough. And that's not fair, because you are enough. And anybody listening to this, you are enough as well. I'm enough. We are enough,
Yeah,
regardless.
it's all a matter about what you choose to believe. Are you going to believe the negativity that is being spewed at you, or do you want to believe something else different about yourself? And if you do want to believe something else, then pairing that new belief that you want to have with actions that align with that. So you are fully being that person right now and not necessarily waiting for that to happen years and so down the road as well too. Because you can very easily, I love like what you said, you can easily get sucked up into the noise or even just the belief of every day, especially as a Black woman physician. And I know you've experienced this too. It's just like, um, so you're who again? You Doctor who? Oh, you're the doctor?
Yeah. Woo.
Or I never saw the doctor.
Listen,
I introduce myself the same way every time. Hi, my name is Dr. Brown. How can I help you today? But it's constantly not being recognized as who we say that we are as well too.
yeah, and it's just that stuff really can take a toll on you. And so creating, like I said, that's the reason why why the confidence has to be unshakable. That's the reason why we have to dig deep and first of all figure out what are these negative thoughts? Where do they come
Mm-hmm.
from? Why do they exist? And asking ourselves those sorts of difficult questions so that we can dissociate ourselves from them and make space for
Yeah.
who we are meant to be, right? Who the most confident $1 million versions of ourselves are. And that's
Yeah.
the entire premise of Be Out Loud because that is not something that you develop overnight. That's not something
Mm-hmm.
I developed overnight. And so when you're having those little attacks, right? Where you're,
Mm-hmm.
oh, hey, oh, you're the doctor, I'm just saying for real, like when you're having that, or wow, really? Take the
Yeah.
surprise out your voice.
Yeah.
Take the
100%.
surprise out of your voice.
Yes. I want to go back to one different thing you said because you said something, and I don't think I double tapped on this part, but you said that you never thought that you would be an entrepreneur. Like nobody in your family is even an entrepreneur as well too. So how did this path come upon you when you've already checked the box of, becoming the doctor that you always wanted to be?
Sure. So maybe there are entrepreneurs in my family, but not anyone that I know. Like most of the people that I can think of off the top of my head work a pretty stable, steady job. And that's
Hmm.
amazing. And, they do amazing things within that. But entrepreneurship, so the whole path to here, there was just a point where I realized in medicine, number one, that I can inspire and I can create an impact outside of medicine. There was just a point where I realized I can do that and that I want to do that. And like I said, when it comes to telling stories, when it comes to speaking my truth, when it comes to empowering people, that's something that really I've pretty naturally done for most of my life. Like I'm just a natural inborn hype woman. That's just who I am. And so I realized, oh, maybe I can actually do something with this. And I can combat the burnout that I sometimes feel with medicine by
Hmm.
pursuing external
Hmm.
things. Right? Like I have hobbies. I like to go for runs. I love to travel. I love to eat. I love to do all these things, but there is a way to empower people outside of medicine. And I think that is something that started clicking for me, I think towards the end of residency.
Hmm.
So once it started to click that, there's other ways to do this. There's other ways to make money. There's other ways to impact people in a positive way and do it
Hmm.
at the same time. And that's when entrepreneurship was something that I realized, okay, this is a risk that we're gonna take.
That's really awesome. Do you know if it was like one person? Was it a podcast you listened to? Do you remember that exact moment if you were like, okay, wow, other doctors are doing these things. Maybe I can as well too.
Well, I think so. I honestly feel like when I started to write my book, which is
Mhm.
called Out Loud,
Mhm.
and it's pretty much a very similar notion to my coaching business. The book is TBD on publication and everything like that, but it's something where I learned how to find my voice as a Black emergency medicine doctor
Mhm.
who was also a woman, and all of my life journey and how those things that I saw, whether that was as a child, whether that was in college, whether that was, working in the hospital or during COVID, how all of those experiences helped me to recognize my voice and making sure that I'm saying those stories in such a way that, maybe other people can relate to it as well. And so I didn't even start writing a book to write a book. I just started writing because I just needed to journal. I needed to decompress. I needed to get it out. And so there came a point where I realized when I was writing, maybe other people can use this. And so it really wasn't a particular person, but I do remember reading a book called The Beauty of Breaking by Dr. Michelle Harper. She is a Black woman that is also an ER doctor who wrote a very, very beautiful book about her own journey to healing and her own journey to self discovery through her own life. And I thought it was beautiful. And like I said, I had already started writing my own separate thing. And I realized that you can have a really big impact in that. And so when I saw that and I started interacting with her either on social media or whatever the case may be, I realized that she was somebody that was also making a big impact outside of medicine. So I think maybe that was a point, the book writing process and that discovery process was when I said, maybe something outside of medicine. Maybe there's something for me outside of medicine.
That makes sense too, because I think also when people even think about what to do as far as something non-clinical, the first or just something that a business that they want to start, if they're a physician or in the medical field, it's automatically like a clinic, a med spa, a IV center, maybe a concierge business, everything that still has to do with practicing medicine in some way, shape, form, or fashion, or using your licensure. But I love the fact that you just decided to create your experience and use that story and that to transform it into helping someone else with your coaching business. And like I said, and your book as well too. But the natural inclination that I've heard from most people, actually me too, as a doctor, that I was like, well, maybe I'll just open up a med spa, learn how to inject Botox and do fillers and do all those things. I'm just like, I don't even know Black people that do any of this stuff. Like, I don't want to practice
Look,
medicine when I leave work.
what
So,
what's actually funny about that too? So COVID did a lot of things to a lot of people. And one of the effects that it had on my residency class is a lot of people decided that they wanted to do fellowship. So fellowship
mm,
is where you get more specialized training within something that you want to do. So for emergency medicine, some of the more specialized trainings for those that may not know is you can do palliative medicine, you can do ultrasound, or palliative medicine is where you can work more intimately with end of life care and hospice care, or you can do ultrasound fellowship, or you can do pain medicine. So you're learning all of the nuances of managing patients with chronic pain, or you can do EMS where you're learning a whole lot of about what happens before people make it to the hospital. You think paramedics, ambulance, fire department, those sorts of things. And so COVID did this very weird thing where people stopped coming to the hospital because they got very scared. And so a lot of people within, like I said, the COVID class, because of a research paper that came out, said, look, I don't know if I'm gonna have a job. So I need to do a fellowship. And so that's when people decided that they wanted to do specialized medicine because they wanted to be able to do a combination of, EMS, paramedic, pre-hospital medicine, and an ER job. And so that was kind of putting those things together. But I never wanted to do that. And so I guess the whole point is that I was having a lot of conversations with my co-residents, and they were like, look, this is what I want to do. Or not even my co-residents, maybe other people from the COVID class, which I said is like 2020, that said, look, I need to do this. I need job security. And I said, I can't. And so I think after I realized I did not want to do anything more specialized in medicine, I want to just figure something else out. That was something that was bred from those conversations. I just never really wanted to do it. At least not right now. That could change, but probably
yeah,
not.
and I guess I still want to highlight that because the pressure of that as well too in medicine. I remember feeling that my second year. Of course, this was way before COVID was a thing. But I remember my second year of residency, everybody's like, so what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to do fellowship? You're going to get a job? You're going to do this? You're going to do that? Like, what are you going to do?
Yes.
What are you going to do? And there was a lot of pressure for me to do a fellowship, even though that there was, I don't know. I don't know why I felt a lot of pressure to do it. And I felt like that was the next step for me too. But I realized the same, like, I don't really want to do this. I'm like 33, I'm going to finish residency. At some point, I would like to start earning money and not just going deeper and deeper in debt and getting like less than six figure of a salary. So to even break free of the pressure of, like I said, to stay in academia and then do the next thing in the House of Medicine as a fellowship is even breaking the mold, even as that as well too.
Yeah, there's so much pressure. And that just goes back to this hustle, grind culture of medicine. Like, you need to be, where's your next research paper? Where's your next degree? And I'm certain that this is not something that is strictly medicine, right? Like, people,
Right.
um,
I'm sure veterinarians deal with that, dentists that
right,
deal with that, anyone that's like in that academic teaching space, or even honestly, if you do private practice, because everybody has metrics and things that they're trying to
right.
achieve in order to keep the numbers like it's just a lot of different things. Yeah.
Right. Or even outside of the medical field, like, what are you doing for your next job promotion? Well, what are you doing for this? Well, maybe I want to do something for myself instead.
Right.
And there just came a point where I said, you know what? I want to build something by me, for me, and for other people. But I
Mhm.
want to create it. I want it to be something that is from me and that I can do whatever I want with it because it's mine. And so, again, academics, there's just this pressure to just continue to produce. But sometimes it's like, nah, man, I want to take a break. I want to do me. And so that was just something that I recognized when I was having a conversation with, different people that, you know, I'm gonna just have to risk it. We're just gonna have to see what happens with this whole job situation because I just don't want to do a fellowship. And there were certain things that
Mhm.
I was potentially interested in, like potentially like public health fellowship. I
Mhm.
thought about EMS for a little bit or ultrasound, but I said I like these things, but I'm not at this stage of my life or my career wanting to commit to that. I just want a break. I want a breather, and I want to just do me for a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yes, and that is okay. And that, like I said, is okay. I know I remember being there in your shoes and I didn't feel like that was okay. When I made this final decision to just not do fellowship, I felt like I had the world off of my shoulders, but it felt like for everybody else to kind of shut down everything in their world. And it's like, it doesn't matter. This is my life. I have to live it. So yeah, and look at you now. Clearly, things are working out well. The
See?
hair is
See?
hairing, the skin
The
is
hair is
skinning.
hair. Yeah, I do not have any regrets. We'll just put it that way on what I've done with my career so far. And the thing is that even if you want to go back and do specialized training, I could always go back and do it. And so all of this pressure and this hustle culture and this, you need to do the next thing, you need to do the next thing, you need to do the next thing, you need to do, I don't though. I can go back to those things if that is something that is a continuing, ongoing desire of mine. But
Right.
again, that's what happens when you're listening to voices that are not yours, right? And so I said, I don't want to do that. I think that's great for you, but that's not me. And so
Hmm.
sometimes you really, and again, this is something that's not specific to medicine. People can probably understand that sometimes you find yourself, whether that's in a career, whether that's in a particular job place, whether that's in a particular city, and you're like, what am I doing here? What is this?
Yeah.
And that's because you did not, and it happens to everybody, but that's because your voice is not the voice that is in the center of some of the decisions that you make. So
Mhm.
that again, going back to this whole notion of you have to recenter yourself and you have to be authentic to yourself so you can go after what you want in life and go after it full speed ahead. Because otherwise you're just gonna be out here living someone else's dream and doing what else someone else told you to do. And that's just not living. It's
Yeah.
just not me.
No. Like I said, like my favorite thing to say, that is very ghetto. It's a very ghetto way to
It's
live your
good.
life.
It is not becoming. It is not something that I aspired for. And I'm tired of the hustle culture of medicine. And I
Same.
just need the space And the creativity, that side of my brain, I use it a little bit more than I guess most people think the doctors use.
Hmm.
But again, you might be thinking of a doctor in a very specific way, and sometimes you have to open up your mind, like, you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
I just didn't wanna do that. I just didn't. I said, "We're gonna have to figure it out." And, I said, I got my first big girl job, I got my contract signed, and so we can start exploring some things.
Yeah. That's so cool. Okay, so for anybody that's interested in listening to this podcast, tell them a little bit more about Be Out Loud. Who's it specifically for, and how can they reach out to you if they want to potentially work with you?
So, if you are somebody that struggles with imposter syndrome, or maybe you're the only in your workplace, or maybe you don't necessarily know how to balance being who it is that you actually want, centering your own voice. Maybe you don't even know her, them, him, whichever pronouns it is that you use. Maybe you don't even know them anymore. And you need to get back to that self. You need to get back to center so that you can get after what it is you want out of life. Those are the people that I'm looking for. These are people that are oftentimes, like I said, minorities, whether that's somebody that is Black, whether that's somebody that is hijabi, whether that's somebody that is queer, gender neutral, differently abled. Those are the people that I feel, especially in the workplace, are most times othered. And if that's somebody or a woman, those are the people that my business is for. That's who I'm looking for. And there are a couple of different ways that you can find me. So we
Mhm.
can start that journey of getting back to yourself and becoming your most authentic, freest, truest version of yourself so that you can get the success that you want out of life.
Mhm.
So if you are somebody that's something that resonates with you, whether it's career wise, life wise, confidence wise, you can get at me via email, Biosha Jones at gmail.com, and we can have that written out somewhere, I assume.
Yeah, it'll be in the show notes for anybody that's
Right,
listening.
perfect. Because names are a whole separate conversation for me. But so you can do that, or you can hit me up on Instagram via DM, and that'll be BEY_ASHA because Beyonce got a new album coming out Friday. Or you can follow my new business Instagram, be_out_loud.
I
And
love it.
those are some of the ways you can find me. I am ready to help people become the best versions of themselves for sure.
I love it. I love it. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with the Docs Get Money podcast audience before we go today?
Just take the chance.
Hmm.
Take the chance on you. Invest
Hmm.
in yourself. And beautiful things can inspire from that. Just do it, girl.
I love it. Thank you, Biasha, so much for this interview. This is incredible. I cannot wait to see how many people come busting down your door, wanting to learn how to be out loud. And I'm sure that they are going to get tremendous success from everything that you've built so far.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for creating this space and this platform to even allow docs to get money because you are my business coach. So I really appreciate you for challenging me in that way and giving me this opportunity. So I appreciate you, Kim.
No problem. Thanks for being here. All right. Well, we will talk soon. Have a good day. Thank you for listening to the Docs Get Money podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you find your favorite podcast. Share, comment, follow, and subscribe to the Docs Get Money podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to know more, visit me, Dr. Kimberly Brown, at KimberlyBrownMD.com, and be sure to follow me at Dr. Kimberly B on Instagram. And until next time, let's go get this money, honey.